testing people that looked like they were sick, which then sets this medical mafia up. And I was talking to Rand Paul, who's going to be in Austin tonight. He's down in Lake Charles right now. He's going to be here at 6 o'clock tonight for a speech and event. I wish I could be there, but I can't. But my folks will be there. Hope everybody goes. The money bomb was a huge success yesterday. You could still give to it. And I wanted to have him pop in about that. But first, since we were talking during the break, Rand Paul, Dr. Rand Paul, son of Ron Paul, running for the Senate in Kentucky. You've already raised more money than your competition. We're going to get to that, but first, your take on this airport situation where they're training us how to be good little slaves.
Well, I think we need to stand up to authority, and there have to be some among us who are willing to take a stand to stop the system, challenge it in court, and really be vocal about it. You know, it was really great when one of my dad's campaign staff, that Steve Darfeld, stood up and said, look, I'm just carrying money through the screener. I don't have to tell you where the money came from. And they harassed him. He recorded it. But ultimately, they backed down when he challenged them.
Yes. And then by him standing up, it totally blew up in the establishment's face.
Right, and that was right on the heels of all that targeting of Ron Paul and freedom lovers in Missouri, and he was coming through that Missouri airport, so I think that really did backfire on him. And I think the whole idea of political profiling, that in our country, your political thought process is going to make you a target for the government, is a scary concept.
Absolutely. We got that MIAC report and broke it. We also broke the DHS report, and people for the first week didn't believe it was real because it was so shocking to not just demonize your dad, but even Bob Barr. I mean, Bob Barr's an okay guy, but he's pretty milquetoast.
Well, and actually going after all kinds of folks, going after people who believe in gun rights. I mean, everybody was sort of lumped in there, and it's amazing. The sort of the strangest bit of all is you got to watch out for those people who believe in the Constitution as being some evildoers.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just so many questions, but I don't want to keep you too long because I know you're busy. Specifically, tell us about the money bomb yesterday and what it's raised. It's continuing. Money is still pouring in.
Well, we set a record yesterday for online fundraising in Kentucky. No one has ever raised this much money in one day online. We raised about $440,000 in one day online, and probably with the carryover effect today, we may get close to $500,000 in a 2-day period. And this does make us competitive with the establishment candidate. And we also had great news last week that there's a poll that shows us dead even with the Democrat and only a few points behind the Republican.
Well, I want to be honest with people out there. During the campaign, your dad's biggest reason for not wanting to run when people were pressuring him to do it was that he said, look, if I don't win, people will be disappointed. I can be a congressman. I can continue to introduce bills. But then I and many others made the point, and he's even given me credit, which I'm honored by, saying I pressured him, other people pressured him, and said, look, you got to do this because you're going to get the word out. You're going to inject real issues into the debate, and then as everything you talk about comes true down the road, that's going to really build the liberty movement. And as your father has said, Congressman Ron Paul, this has blown up hundreds of times bigger than he ever imagined. But I did envision it. I understood what was there, grassroots, and the move to audit the Fed and what was happening. And I also told my listeners, I said, look, he probably won't win, but you've got to fight as hard as you can as if he could, because we do win in getting the word out. And it's not going to be a loss if you give to these money bombs and then he doesn't win, because it's educating people. And now the biggest movement on colleges is now liberty movement, freedom movement, anti-globalist, anti-Fed. We're shifting the whole paradigm right now. And so you've actually got a chance to win, a lot better chance than your dad did his first big run for president as a Republican. I know he ran as a libertarian before that in the 70s. And so, or the 80s. So you have got a huge chance to win, especially since the other fellow, the incumbent, isn't running. I know you know that, Rand. I just want to make sure listeners know that if we don't put our money on the line and our energy on our line and our voices on the line and our treasure on the line, we don't have a hope in hell here. We have got to get behind you.
And the other thing about it is we couldn't do it. I couldn't be anywhere near where I am now without the Patriot movement that supported my dad. And without that movement, we couldn't do this. But you're right, we can take it to another level, and we can win this race this time. And if people will go look at our website, randpaul2010.com, you'll see how big that money bomb was yesterday, and hopefully people will get it excited and keep it going.
Absolutely. And I like Peter Schiff, but I really like you, and especially the name Paul, plus you're as smart, intelligent, have basically the same views, constitutional views as your father. It's now at $683,000, $683,835. A lot of mails coming in. We need to make sure this is $1 million by the end of the day, or at least by the end of the weekend. I mean, come on, folks. Peter Schiff, raised $870-something thousand. And that's great. We supported that. But Rand Paul, I mean, he's got a real super shot here. He needs to raise more money than Peter Schiff. I mean, I think that's another challenge out there.
I think Peter Schiff is also a great candidate. I've met him a couple of times, and I think we have two good chances, really, at least there, as well as we've got a lot of other Liberty candidates out there who have a shot. So I say, yes, let's keep the movement going. Let's stoke the fire, stoke the flame. But we've got a lot of movement going on, and this is going to now give us the chance to really begin a full-fledged campaign. And we've got them scared. You can see it in their eyes. When I used to see them at these picnics, I'd see overconfidence, this sort of imperiousness that they were going to win with no race at all. And now I see that they're worried. I see crowds congregating on our side. When we have volunteers show up at a picnic, we've got as many or more than the other guy every time now.
I think it was Julius Caesar said there is a tide in the fortunes of men when taken at the flood leads on to fortune. I would just change that and say there is a tide in the affairs of men when taken at the flood leads on to liberty and freedom for future generations. And we have the giant Tea Party movement. We have this bipartisan movement against the globalists, against the foreign banks. People are now identifying that both political parties are by and large controlled by offshore corporations. And if we can get you in the Senate and have you with that bully pulpit in there blowing the whistle, and I believe you won't be compromised. I believe you'll be 100% faithful like your father. Then it'll just be amazing to have two Pauls in the Congress as a wedge to blast open the gates for more candidates. Because as people learn that we can have victory, as they learn that the New World Order isn't as invincible as they have portrayed themselves, as the aura of invincibility and imperial hubris of the Federal Reserve now evaporates, the people smell blood, and it is contagious. So I can't stress enough how important this race for the Kentucky Senate is. A senator is really a national position. Obviously, you'll be representing Kentucky, but it deals with national issues. Can you comment along that line, sir?
Well, what I would say is that you're right. The amazing thing is, we've had our small remnant that's been growing through the years, the freedom movement, the liberty-loving movement, the limited government crowd. But I sense it getting bigger and bigger because when I see patients who come into my office who are not part of our movement, but they're just part of the general public, they sit down in the chair and they look at me and they say, I'm worried. There is an unease. There is a discontent that is growing among the people, and it's not just our small movement anymore. It's spreading throughout the public, and it's going to be something big, and if we tap into it, we have a chance to really take back our country.
Amazing. Tell folks where you're speaking tonight in Austin and how folks can go.
Well, I'll be in Austin. It's at a private home, but you can come and you can RSVP if you'll just get on our website, randpaul2010.com, and there's an Austin fundraiser this evening. It's not that expensive. I think it's $25 per person, and you can RSVP just by getting on the website, and we're happy to have you.
Well, that's amazing. And then you're going to be in other parts of the country now. Folks can find out more at randpaul2010.com.
That's right.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you running for the Senate. I know you're taking on a lot. I know it was a big family decision. Folks, it's a lot to ask these people to run. It was a lot to ask his father to run. You get a lot of heat, a lot of attacks, a lot of work. I would imagine deep down it'd be easier just to stay there in your medical practice and spend time with the family. But you know you're doing this for your family's future.
Yeah, and I think we really don't have a lot of time. I mean, I think the deficit has become so large. They've printed so much money. There's been such an expansion of credit that I fear that if there's a destruction of the currency, that during that chaos is when really bad things can happen. You know, that's what happened when we got Hitler in Germany, was during the destruction of the currency. And if we have a really catastrophic or a panic in the currency here, we need to have people in place in office who will be talking about protecting us, following the rule of law, the Constitution, and not saying, give me more power. If I only had more power against these evil people, if we put these people in prison, you know, we can make you safe again. You know, all that security. We just need more security. And if you get some kind of strong leader like that, then it's all over for the Republic.